When people think of hospitals, many words come to mind: sterile, controlled, innovative, caring, and surgery. Now, these are all fine and accurate descriptions of hospitals. They are structured institutions that possess an aura of cleanliness in all aspects of operations, a connection that is critical for the hospital and its doctors to be trusted, and lives to be saved. But behind the scrubs, the pale green decor, and the white tiled floors lies a major environmental problem, that being the tremendous amount of medical waste being produced. Medical waste, defined by the Medical Waste Tracking Act of 1988, is any solid waste that is generated in the diagnosis, treatment, or immunization of human beings or animals, and in medical research or the testing of biologicals. Furthermore, the World Health Organization has classified medical waste into several categories, including infectious waste, radioactive waste, sharps, pharmaceuticals, as well as other non-hazardous solid waste. Infectious medical waste, also known as biohazardous waste or regulated medical waste, is the portion of waste that may be contaminated by blood, other bodily fluids, or infectious materials, and has received a considerable amount of attention over the years regarding proper disposal because of its significant impact on the environment and human health. These concerns over the regulation of medical waste were generated primarily by several accidents along the beaches of the east coast of the United States in the 1980s. The most well-known being the syringe tide, which is discussed by Derek Jensen in his book What We Leave Behind. In 1987 and 1988, a significant amount of medical waste washed onto 50 miles of New Jersey shoreline. This event and others prompted the enactment of the Medical Waste Tracking Act of 1988. Following this new act, hospitals began to dispose most of their waste as biohazardous waste. The most popular treatment of this infectious waste was incineration. During the early 1990s, there were 6,000 medical waste incinerators. However, while incineration is incredibly effective at rendering waste non-infectious, there are major environmental and health concerns that result from this process. And as Derek Jensen points out, these localized solid waste problems become globalized air pollution problems, the most notable of which is from mercury emissions. This toxic metal, when in its vapor form, has harmful effects when inhaled or comes in contact with the skin. In humans, chronic exposure can severely damage the nervous system and respiratory system, while in animals, especially marine animals, it accumulates in the fat tissue, ultimately impacting the health of higher-order species. So essentially, hospitals that were trying to protect the health of the people were actually active in harming them. Fortunately, once these harmful effects became better understood, quick action was taken. The EPA in 1997 set stricter standards regarding toxic emissions, and between 1997 and 2005, the number of medical waste incinerators dropped from 2,400 to less than 100. Hospitals have since implemented waste segregation programs to minimize the total amount of regulated medical waste disposed, and thus reducing the amount that must be incinerated. Also, hospitals are adopting safer alternative forms of infectious waste treatment, such as steam sterilization or autoclaving, and electropyrolysis. Moreover, organizations like Practice Green Health are active in creating a more sustainable healthcare system. For example, a new process called reverse distribution involves the return of unused but usable pharmaceuticals to the manufacturer. This process is beneficial because it reduces the amount of hazardous waste, and by extending the life of these pharmaceuticals, their environmentally harmful effects are eliminated for some time. The most beneficial outcome of the large production of medical waste in the United States is that it has begun to actually aid the healthcare systems in the developing world. Organizations like MedShare and Remedy have been created to recover surplus and open but unused medical supplies, and then donate these necessary but unattainable supplies to developing countries around the globe. MedShare alone has donated more than $60 million worth of supplies and equipment to hospitals in 78 countries since it was founded in 1998. And Remedy has been successful in expanding its network of participant healthcare facilities, hoping to recover the available $200 million worth of medical supplies each year, which they estimate would increase the U.S. sent medical aid by 50%. Organizations such as these, which were formed as a result of increasing medical waste, have created a critical link between the United States and the developing world. Hopefully, this process will become standard in all hospitals throughout the country, and in time, people will make this socially and environmentally responsible choice automatically. Of course, with this influx of medical supplies to the third world comes an increase in medical waste in those areas. And medical supplies can only be reused so many times before they are truly rendered useless or unsafe. The question that arises is, as Leslie King puts it in his book Environmental Sociology, quote, "Are we imposing our environmental burden on weaker states?" In this case, however, instead of corporate-led globalization, it is the globalization of healthcare. One could certainly argue that hospitals, like corporations, are trying to cut costs by exporting supplies through organizations like MedShare, instead of treating the waste themselves. In the end, though, it comes down to one question: which decision does the greater good? The extension of the United States hospitals' health care can save countless lives in developing countries, but does it offset the later risk of illness from the treatment of the increased amount of medical waste? Currently, it is a difficult question to answer because the third world is still using harmful waste treatment practices, the primary one being incineration, and little help has been given to make the shift to alternative forms of medical waste treatment. In fact, in 2002, the World Bank was criticized heavily for continuing to fund developmental projects for the medical waste incinerators in developing countries, during a time when this technology was being phased out in the United States. A Healthcare Without Harm report found that at least 30 projects supported by the World Bank and its financial arm, the International Finance Corporation, were for the construction of these incinerators, the same incinerators that produce harmful dioxin, mercury, and furans. And these incinerators were to be built in countries such as Algeria, Nigeria, Malawi, Zimbabwe, and Senegal, among others of similar economic situations. Essentially, the World Bank chose to harm the lives of these poorer people, placing them below the more prosperous of the North. This decision can be due to many factors. Incinerators are a provenly effective technology and may be easier to construct and operate than the new alternative technologies. But new solar box cookers, which are not only far less expensive at 22 pounds, they are simple to operate and use the sun's energy to kill harmful bacteria. In the end, though, as Leslie King discusses in his book, it is most likely due to the poverty present in these areas, and connected with this poverty, the relatively weak environmental and human safety laws. There is no doubt that the incinerators are beneficial to a degree. Without them, more serious problems would arise from the open disposal of infectious waste. But perhaps the World Bank cannot see the ultimate goal, that goal being to aid the developing nations in their pursuit to match the global North, economically and socially. To effectively do this, the distance must be closed. The prosperous must give these countries the chance to develop and use their voice and express their concerns and ideas to listening ears. When this larger goal is reached, then not only will they truly benefit from the medical aid sent from the United States, but it will give them the chance to develop their own effective medical system and become level with the global North. Who knew that medical waste had the potential to produce such change?